All right, Tatiana, go ahead.
All right, here it is, guys. Let's see how it comes out. I didn't want to give any of my money to a nation based on war. I wanted to be free, nothing holding me back from where I want to go. I thought about it. What was the choice that I made? It was to take away the money. Don't give up your money. Use Bitcoin whenever you pay. Use Bitcoin whenever you pay. I didn't want to waste any of my time working for the government. I wanted to be kind, open up my mind, just like an instrument. I thought about it. What was the choice that I made? It was to take away the money. Don't give up your money. Use Bitcoin whenever you pay. Use Bitcoin whenever you pay. This part where everyone goes, what a little crypto can do. No longer a slave. I don't have to work until the grave. So many times I cried to myself that we didn't have a chance. Nakamoto came along with more than a song, gave the labor back to man. I thought about it. What was the choice that I made? It was to take away the money. Don't give up your money. Use Bitcoin whenever you pay. Use Bitcoin whenever you pay. Use Bitcoin whenever you pay and save.
Fantastic.
Yay!
Everybody. That was so fun. Impressive.
Wow.
Nice.
Time ago that I wrote that song.
Beautiful.
You know, if you think about it, like I play it all the time, but now I do feel like it's New Year's or something.
Oh,
You still play it all this time later?
Yep. Rock and roll.
Fantastic. I just want to give a little bit of an example. I just mentioned this on the Tatiana show just before, that the exponentiality is something that really is so weird. And we've got $1 trillion that took 200 years for the United States to get to, and now we have in the first quarter of 2020 we have $3 trillion of debt printed. So I think this is a runaway machine that's going to really cause chaos in the whole system. And to be here with everyone here, enjoying the island that is Bitcoin, the island that is hard assets. Like, I mean, I'm a bit of a gold guy as well. But whatever you can get into, whatever is rare, you want to get into right now. You don't want to stick in unrare assets. You don't want to have your savings. And Germans are the worst. The Germans have so much money sitting in banks. It's unbelievable. It's trillions just sitting in there because they just believe the government. They're like, oh, it'll be right. And after this halving,
brilliant German accent there.
Yeah, this is okay, or no? No, I mean,
can I step in here for a minute, because I did a little of my own original research on this.
Wait, guys, I do have to go.
I was amazed.
Bye, I love you all. Thank you.
Okay.
Tatiana.
Bye, Tatiana.
Take care.
Have you choreograph
Happy
and write
Halving.
some music for my dance? But
That I'm down for the dance. That sounds like a
All
good plan.
right.
I hope I see you guys soon in person. Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Happy having.
No, what I wanted to share, because I don't know if you're aware of this, I did not realize that the French and I think it was the Belgians or the Netherlands in I think it was January of 1923, they invaded Germany with like 5 armies. I mean, they went right in the ruhr because they weren't getting paid their reparations. And the German government, it was almost like the coronavirus. The German government says, okay, because they were restricted from having anything to fight back. It was like declaring war when Germany invaded France and Belgium. That was war. But when they did it, so Germany said, okay, you can invade us. But they told their people, said, we're going to go ahead and pay you, but we don't want you to produce anything.
That's right.
And that's
Yeah.
essentially what we have now. And that's what touched off. They were already inflating to some degree, but that's what touched off the hyperinflation. And to say that this isn't, I mean, I've been around a long time when back there in the 70s, when people thought gold was going to go to 6,000. Well, that was but now, the sky's the limit. I mean, I don't see how we can avoid the runaway inflation. I might be wrong, but the analogy that I see of what's going on now, there were not only that, there were 146 people that were killed by the French armies. Now, how many people died from not having good health care when the hyperinflation kicked in, when you couldn't even get food? And I haven't seen any studies on that, but that's what really scares me. And since you're in Berlin, I mean, I can't believe that the German people are that blind, because they were the ones that grandfathers experienced it.
No, and the thing is, the Germans have a very, very good understanding of gold. If we run a Bitcoin and physical gold exchange, and the main focus has been Germany, because the more we look around, the more we realize that people understand gold. And this is what I keep saying to Bitcoiners. It's like, look, we're all technocrats. We understand Bitcoin is the new gold. But there's a lot of people out there that don't understand any of this, and they need to get out of this banking system. They need to either take a little bit out. And people always say, only put as much into Bitcoin as you're willing to afford to lose. But I would say only keep in the banks as much as you're willing to afford to lose, because everything points to a total catastrophic collapse, especially now with COVID-19. We have massive banks with total intransparency, total impunity, just doing whatever they want. And you don't know how liquid these guys are. They can do anything. The laws have been passed with full-on bail-ins. And if you look at something like HSBC, who's actually controlling the GLD, they could just bail themselves in with this massive glut of gold that all these hedge funds have bought into with these ETFs, thinking that gold's a safe haven, when really all they've bought is bullshit sitting there under a bank's name. Actually, HSBC owns that, not you or me. And so there is so much that's going to happen in the next few months or years. I mean, I'm broadening that out, but I would say in the next year we're going to see some pretty interesting times. And if you can get out of the cash and into rare assets, whatever they may be.
I'm actually most interested about what's going to come over the next 1 or 2 epochs. I think we're seeing a big circle happen where we're coming back to the point where it's going to be coming back to Bitcoin, recognition that almost all altcoins, if not all of them, have no value. They've been running now for 2 or 3 years. They've had an opportunity with lots of funding, lots of media, lots of focus to prove their worth, and they haven't. And I think it's going to be one of the emperor's new clothes type scenario. So that's going to be really interesting. And I think there's going to be many other things that happen over the next 4 years, but it'll be really interesting to hear people's thoughts about what's coming over the next epoch. Where are we going to be in 4 years' time? Not just price, but in terms of development of technology, etc.
That's a really
I mean, like, I can imagine it all being bootstrapped by the fact that it's now, I don't know, it's very plausible technology. Particularly when people are facing a financial crisis and the blunt side of inflation, that they're going to be more aware, and also like spending a lot of time online. Like, people are going to be more aware of privacy enhancement, and then also having money which isn't easily inflated by governments. So I think it's, toward the end of World War II, that's when Bretton Woods happened, and the new gold-backed dollar system was brought into as the world's way of transacting. But at that time as well, like, Keynes was trying to obviously propose the Bancor, which is kind of a decentralized, federated currency medium exchange for countries. So there was like people were willing to change the way in which they worked economically during quite adverse times, or coming out of the end of quite adverse times, but they still had ruined economies. So I can imagine that this whole crisis around coronavirus could be a similar catalyst that, you know, people will say, well, why can't we use something else? Why can't we use something like Bitcoin?
Oh,
Well, I think if it happens, it's going to happen really, really
and I think
quickly. You know, like I think there's a lot of expectation built into money and inflation. And so I think everything will be fine. And then it'll be boom. It's not fine. I think it'll happen. It probably will happen, and it will happen very quickly.
exactly.
So I think we need to be really ready for that.
When it happens,
I think one thing that we really need to be ready for is we do live, because we still are not that visible. As we become visible, you guys, particularly in certain jurisdictions, are going to become targets. And so we have to really build up a network to watch each other's backs. You may be able to get your wealth out because of Bitcoin, but you may not be able to get your body and family out. And this is something that really needs to be worked on and thought about deeply. So I'm very hopeful, but that's the big game that's coming, guys. I mean, I've already been there and done that. I know how, look, I love my country and our Constitution, but I despise my government. I know it. I know how they operate. And I am hopeful. My view is that hopefully the governments will realize that for them to get our wealth, they're going to have sound money. And I truly, and I might be wrong on this, but Bitcoin will never be for governments. Now, gold can be because it has physical standards. But I would love to see a world where the gold standard is competing with the Bitcoin standard. And I think that's what Hayek was talking about in denationalization of money.
Yeah.
I don't think because it's going to be one standard, and it's apart from, it's without a sovereign nation. Now, it would be one. I mean, wouldn't it be wonderful to see a gold standard competing with Bitcoin? And if the nations that aren't on a gold standard, we just leave them alone.
I mean, if you think about it,
we're going to have a lot to say in this, guys, but we really are. And
I mean,
so we have to act wisely, huh?
Right now, the petrodollar, the US dollar, is the world reserve currency. It's the one that people, partly because the biggest consumers in the world are the US, but most countries do not want the US dollar to be the world reserve currency. They would prefer it to be their own. But if you look at it, ultimately, what currency can take over from the US dollar? Is it really going to be the Russian ruble? Will other countries accept that as the world reserve currency? Euro, which is quite divided right now. The European Union is actually quite divided.
Even
and
Russians don't want the ruble.
Ultimately, as well, like it's one of the unspoken one of the things we don't talk about. One of the value propositions of Bitcoin is its apolitical nature. Like it's all economy. Ancients, Austrians, it's apolitical.
Yeah,
it's apolitical. It's neutral. It's if you're going to have I mean, world reserve currencies get replaced, and they have throughout history. But the next currency that replaces the US dollar, whenever that happens, the likelihood that it's not something that is neutral, and so no one country controls in this sort of global economy exists, is vanishingly small. And so if it's not going to be controlled by one currency, then there's really, and one country, there's really only one option. And hint, it's not Ethereum or Ripple.
I don't think it's Bitcoin. You know what? I agree with you on that, but I do think it's gold, because I do really too. I don't think that governments. I mean, you talk about there is the ultimate hodling, of it. Whoever controls the keys controls the Bitcoin. That's why gold is actually a beautiful competitor with Bitcoin, and Bitcoin would be the international layer, but gold is the practical layer, and every country can still have their sovereignty and their own exchange rate. I mean, I might be completely out to lunch on this, guys, but I am hoping maybe more than
I don't see how it's
the gold
gold
standard is going to
in the
compete
digital economy.
with Bitcoin, and the nations are going to grab hold of that. That'd be great. That'd be absolutely.
I personally don't see how it's gold in an international economy where we're now sort of natively digital.
No. Every gold, it would be kind of like before Bretton Woods. Everybody has their national currency pegged to gold at whatever rate what they create. And
Yeah,
we're talking about a long way into the future. Yeah, this is not like.
I don't think it's that far. I think everything's accelerating so fast.
Yeah. This is the thing.
I think that what we were seeing, what has just happened in the last 6 weeks, has completely changed the paradigm.
But it's people not marching. It's people not being dictated how they're going to interact financially. It's people choosing to interact differently financially. So Bitcoin, you can easily on-ramp onto it, and then you can have, a financial life within the Bitcoin infrastructure, and whether it be on-chain, second layer, whatever else. So I don't think this is why, to me, it'd be harder for it to be something like gold. I think more and more people will just, as internet natives, they'll just start interacting more and more with something like Bitcoin itself.
I tell you why I think I'm on Ugly's side is that it's extremely hard for governments to hold private keys without corruption.
Exactly.
And, imagine if a government held private. What are you going to multi-signat? Who has these signatures? Who has these keys? Who has the keys? And how do you control that? What governments are very, very good at and have been for a lot of time is controlling people. Hey, you guards, you better guard that gold. Boom, full stop. You get paid a shitload to do that. Boom, you sorted. It's very, very hard to corrupt.
They can't guard a vault with private keys in it.
But people
I want to interrupt this program to just announce to the world that a conversation like this can only happen on World Crypto Network, sponsored by Thomas Hunt, because you know what? Everything else is kind of we're going deep, man. This is a deep dive. Okay, this is the classic show. All right, not the big ones where everybody's at. This is where it's at, because I wanted to have some conversations like this, and it's just not available.
Well,
except here on World Crypto Network.
Well, thank you so much, Goat.
Thomas Hunt.
And this is a good time to remind you the price of Bitcoin seems to be rising. It's $8,775. And we've got a brand new store for you on the World Crypto Network. Just announcing today, if you want to buy a mug or 3 t-shirts. We have the World Crypto Network mug with both logos. We have the brand new Treasures Don't Float t-shirt. If you've lost your keys in a boating accident, this may be a great idea.
For sale yet? I want to buy an 8-ball.
We've still got to do the 8-ball's a little harder. We have to buy 1,000 8-balls from China first.
We're going to get on a boat after this
we're going to get on a boat
with our treasures.
We got the Treasures Don't Float. We've also
we got to get on 2 boats and crash them. That's what we got.
I like the Treasures Don't Float. That's cool.
Treasures Don't Float. We also have a brand new Bitcoin Not Bombs design. This is the original t-shirt of Bitcoin. We talked to Davi Barker, and if you look right there, it says 2020 Bitcoin Halving on the brand new airplane. So this is a brand new design from Davi Barker. And we have just the traditional World Crypto Network, the t-shirt with a logo on it. So if you want to check those out.
I'm so out of it. I didn't even know you had a store. So
it's just today. We're just launching it today.
Really?
I built it this morning,
you know
so
I will be. I'm going to make some purchases. In fact, create an affiliate link, and I'll link everybody to it. Okay.
Well, that sounds great.
Where can we get your walking stick? Your Bitcoin walking.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the standard bear.
Yeah.
It's actually
an 8-ball. I want an 8-ball. That's what I want.
I said this to Thomas so long ago. I was like, that 8-ball needs to be for sale, and I want to buy one right now.
The Bitcoin ball.
And trade on it.
Yeah. Ugly, do you think that trade, that 8-ball could teach people how to trade?
Yes, absolutely. absolutely the best TA I've ever seen.
It may have better performance than many of the advice that
you guys,
the
I get people get mad at me because I just don't. I use TA, but everybody's got everything. The priorities wrong. Everything's. You need to manage your funds. That's the number one thing, and then the fundamentals. And the fundamentals. The fundamentals aren't even. It's not even Bitcoin. It's the fiat money. That's the basic fundamental. And that Bitcoin's just the solution that didn't come out of nowhere, but its time had come, and it happened, and it is the solution. And so it is the fundamentals. And then but everybody has it reversed. They think TA, you need to know the magic beans. Where's the market? And go, how do I make $1 million tomorrow? It doesn't work that way, guys. So
I used to listen to a guy called Brother John, and he was a technical analysis on silver.
The Bitcoin channel back in the day. Yeah.
Back in the day. And he loved mad Bitcoins. He said, man, this is a clever guy. I don't know who he is, but he's a clever guy. And one of his things was he made this one video. He said, Bitcoin, its time has come. And he said, one of the reasons why this is so interesting, because its time has come. It's not because it's such a great invention. It's because its time has come.
Right. It's not, if Satoshi hadn't invented it, somebody else would have. It's kind of like the airplane or, anything like that. Somebody would have come up with, but we're so fortunate to have somebody that understood it so well that they're not there anymore. Gosh, that's such a big deal that people don't understand.
Yeah, I would agree.
I can tell you that because I was there. I did 11 years because I started. You know what I started? I started a business called Gold Standard Corporation.
Wow, what did you guys do?
Well, I minted private coinage. I was actually the first one to decimalize the troy ounce. My mentor was E.C. Harwood. I had F.A. Hayek, denationalization of money. I had Henry Hazlitt, free market money. What you guys are doing now, I tried in a very primitive way back when gold was legalized.
Well, I think
we've just had another block.
That's why gold's not Bitcoin. It's very inferior, but it's perfect for governments because it's physical and they can control it and they can, have their monitors and their metal detectors going across borders. But yeah, as long as they have a gold standard, the money's going to be relatively sound. My hope is we see governments that really want to create wealth and really want to benefit their citizens are going to adopt the gold standard. And you know what? Bitcoiners are going to come in there, and we're the ones that are going to have the capital to really get their economies going. And then hopefully other governments are going to see that. So, we're a nation beyond all nations.
We've had another block. We've had the first 6.25 block. We've had our first block under 6.25. You guys aren't paying attention.
Sorry.
Also,
first 6.25 block.
I want to try to get Chris Ellis back in here.
On the gold standard.
Chris Ellis has been a little quiet. Chris, do you have anything to say? I just want to let the quiet people talk. So go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, sure. I think you should all learn about MMT. Modern monetary theory. Mosler, my boy, he's got his law. You will have to understand something, which is that countries don't have lifespans. They don't have a working life and then they retire and they're no longer economically active. They keep producing. They keep producing new people. Those people keep working. They're still economically active agents in the economy. And that's why it's okay for a government to continue printing money and to continue to go into debt. Do you see what I mean? And then you have taxes, and taxes is a way of reclaiming the money supply back to government so that it can destroy that money and take it out of circulation. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I agree,
that's a very good point.
So hang on, look, I don't believe this shit. I'm just playing devil's advocate. I'm just saying that sometimes in order to sharpen these arguments, you need to spend time with your adversaries, right? It's like
absolutely.
you need to engage yourself.
I agree completely. I agree completely with you should read it all. You know, if you want to study economics, read it all. And then understand all of the theories and where they all come from. And then, you know, similar like we said before, with the difference between Bitcoin and Lightning and Liquid, they have their trade-offs, you know, and they're good at different things. So if you have a slump in the market and you want to create, you know, you want to create growth, and you don't want your markets to slow, you don't want businesses to go out of business, so you don't have a market left after the crisis, then you can print money, and you can have this Keynesian approach to monetary policy, but that which works, you know, it works in some ways, and then in other ways, like we've seen, it doesn't work, because often it's crony Keynesianism, as you would have crony capitalism. So read it all, and then understand the trade-offs and pros of all. But I think ultimately, most economists and most schools of economics will agree on an apolitical money, one which isn't bound to a country.
No, they don't. Most
they
modern
do.
economics.
No, they do, absolutely.
What are you talking about? Like, if you go to university right now and you study economics, they're not going to teach you that. They're going to teach you the modern monetary theory. It's like the de facto standard now. Like, it's not, you know, we're actually on the fringes.
Keynes was a big proponent of apolitical money, which is why he proposed the Bank. Marx as well, and the Austrians. So apolitical money that's the holy grail. Most modern monetary theorists don't think that it could be achieved, but we know that it can.
You know, I was watching YouTube.
Wait, someone said that they studied economics. Hannah, was it?
Me, yes.
Yeah. So what did you get taught? What did you get taught?
Ah, crap. That is my web host who I have to go yell at. It is no, but I agree with you. You're correct. I learned what everyone's talking about on CNBC and whatnot, right? That's what we learned in university.
You know, the thing is, it's not any universities though. It's not even. Ciao, Hannah. It's not even universities. I was watching YouTube the other day, and I got an ad with Krugman talking about economic theory and asking people to join his masterclass. And so it's not only universities anymore; it's also YouTube and the internet teaching this nonsense.
Yeah, I just think that people, like, in order to sharpen your arguments, like, you know, just watching Bloomberg right now, you would develop your arguments, right? Because a lot of those are just shills. A lot of it just mostly for corporations, not even governments. But they want money to be printed because they're the first people to receive it. You know, the first people to get the money get all the benefits of the money printing. It's the last people in the chain. But all I'm saying is, if Bitcoiners want to sharpen their arguments, they need to embed themselves in their opponent's space.
Oh no, absolutely.
And
they should also cater to the arguments. So there's no reason why you couldn't have some sort of asset on top of Bitcoin, which has which you are able to inflate, but then that's, I mean, is that plausible, Adam? So could I do fair weather surplus recycling? So in good economic growth times, could I take some of that money and cryptographically kind of secure it and then release it when we have like a slump? Say if I had a Welsh pound on top of the Liquid network, and I wanted to kind of buffer out crisis. Could I bake in some sort of measures like that?
I mean, you can, with issued assets, you could do whatever you want. I mean, I guess you are you control the money. If it's the issued assets on Liquid are like the Tether, for example, is a multi-sig. So presumably some different financial controllers at Tether Corporation multi-sig to issue more. So about the gold topic, going back a bit. So I think that you were saying that governments know how to physically control gold. They also know how to physically pilfer gold. So in 2011, they had the Arab Springs in a few countries, and the guy in Tunisia, Ben Ali, who was the dictator then, panicked and fled the country. And so the story goes locally that he landed in Malta with 3 military helicopters and 45 million euros worth of gold and chartered a jet to Saudi Arabia to get, to escape from his country, which was no longer tolerating his dictatorship, or he lost his nerve or something. So,
how many kilos?
I'm not sure, but they're in the paper. They said 45 million euros worth.
Right.
So, I mean, probably one of the helicopters had gold, and the other two had his entourage or something. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But it just shows that, it's hard for countries that are in the grips of dictatorships or governments that are arguably not operating in the interests of the population. They typically end up pilfering the national resources and gold and stuff like that, right? Most of these dictators are billionaires through pilfering and bribes and stuff.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
I mean, Bitcoin may or may not have the same problem, but I think at least what you have with Bitcoin, which helps compared to gold, is that you can, own small parts of it and assay it cheaply and instantly with a full node or a wallet or something, where gold ends up being electronic and then rehypothecated or not even yours due to the legal contracts. And then it starts to not really be gold. I mean, it's gold related, but it loses its benefits, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Depending on who you buy it from and how good you are at reading legal contracts. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but I think that's the same with a general smart contract thing. And this is, a little bit further away from Bitcoin, but a lot of these smart contracts, a lot of people can't read them. They can't read the code. They can't understand how secure they are. And so if something is backed, if some sort of physical asset is backed by these contracts, then it's kind of hard to read as well. Plus you've got then the legal contract on top of the code contract. It makes it very difficult. So I think Bitcoin is beautiful like that. You can.
I think that's the finish line. Bitcoin is beautiful like that.
Yeah, exactly. Bitcoin is beautiful.
It's digital, but it has the promises of a physical asset like gold, but it has a fixed supply and the promise of fixed supply to a level, eventual fixed supply, to a level that no other asset that has ever existed before it could ever promise. We don't know whether we can, find an asteroid tomorrow with a plethora of gold in it. That's just not. We just don't know that to be the case. We do know.
Yeah, but it's very hard. It's very hard
unless all the owners of Bitcoin choose to do something that is not in their interest. So as when everybody all of a sudden decides that they want to do something that's not in their interest, then the supply can increase.
It's true, but gold's got to be worth a hell of a lot to deal with the weight of re-entry. Gold is very heavy. People forget how heavy gold is, and to have re-entry back into Earth's atmosphere with gold that's mined somewhere else out of interplanetary is probably impossible.
Can't you just drop it into the gravity well?
Yeah, it'll probably burn up though. It's very.
It seems getting back down to Earth is not the hard thing. It's getting back out normally, where all the energy is expended.
Hey, I'm still trying to capture an asteroid and pull it into Earth's orbit so that we can mine it conveniently. But you guys are thinking ahead.
No, but the other thing I think is going to be an interesting trend is the trend towards, and I was talking to someone on Twitter who's a big proponent of this as well, is the move, I think, in the next epoch towards investing versus trading. I mean, nothing wrong with trading, but if you think about it as a thought experiment, if most people were hodlers, if not all people were hodlers, then Bitcoin's price would be much less volatile. I mean, it will still continue to increase as adoption increases, but it'll increase in a much less volatile way. And as you start to expand the market, the first people into this market were the people who are risk tolerant. They were happy to take risk, etc. But most people on the planet aren't risk tolerant; they're risk averse. So they're going to want to come in a way which is lower risk, and therefore they're going to be much more attuned to the sort of philosophy of hodling, of not trying to take risks, not trying to trade, and to try and choose cryptocurrencies which are, given that this is a higher risk area, are low risk. And that's only one choice. If you want anything that's even remotely in the sort of the lower end of the risk spectrum. So you're going to see people going back to Bitcoin, less trading, more investing, and therefore more hodling, which will stabilize the price in its own way. So I'm really interesting to see what happens in the next epoch. And as again, other people's thoughts as to what's going to happen in this space will be really interesting.
Now, Obi, we have a question for you, because you run an exchange, right? So in the next couple months here, we just saw the Bitcoin reward go down from 12.5 to 6.25. Do you think this is going to happen now, even without everyone hodling? Is there going to be a supply squeeze? Is there going to be not enough Bitcoins on the exchange for people to buy?
Well, there's always enough. It's just that the value of them might change. So it's just because they are divisible, and actually far more divisible than one Satoshi if we wish to. If it's in people's incentives to change the currency to allow for smaller units, then it will happen. And you can do that with Lightning already. I don't expect to see a significant change in the market in the short term. And if it is, it will probably, there are people who can move the market individually still at this stage. And that gets harder and harder, but it's still possible. So short-term price movements could be just someone deciding, I want to move the price today.
That sounds like a great superpower.
But it is a great power, but it's the reality. So given that's the case, if you
not a great power, I love people that do that.
but they can only do it for a certain period of time. You can only resist gravity for a certain period of time, and eventually it'll move to its actual price. I mean, and the question is, what is that final price? And that's where you have to sort of form a view, and because it's still a risk, but you form a view, and based on all the people in the space, based on the sort of the pedigree of the fundamentals that brought Bitcoin into existence. If you look at the people cited in the white paper, one of them is on this talk, and it's one of them is on this talk, and Wei Dai, and all of the core concepts that were behind this. As long as you believe in 1 + 1 = 2 and mathematics, and game theory, and people will be people.
I've been in room 101 for long enough to know it equals 5.
So then, I mean, that's what you have to make a call on for the long term. Do you believe in, human nature? Do you believe in mathematics? If those two are true, then you can form a view that Bitcoin will, over the long term, increase in value. But if you don't believe some of those fundamentals, or you don't understand what effectively Bitcoin is, then you may form a different view. But in the short term, unless you're a sophisticated or professional trader, it might be difficult for you to make a return. And even if you are a professional trader, it will be difficult. But in the long
I disagree. I think anyone can be a very good trader, but most people just do not have the thinking correctly. Yeah. I don't think it's hard to be a very good trader. So that's, if I can pass that on, I feel like that's my legacy.
So how do you become a very good trader?
Well, you got to throw away everything that you probably have in your mind. First of all, I don't know.
That doesn't sound very easy.
Nobody knows. When you realize nobody knows,
everything,
you're at a tremendous advantage. Okay, I do not predict. I react.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to say that, but it's not. You cannot. All these. Okay. Everybody has TA first, and that's a distant third. Number one is managing your funds. And number two is the fundamentals. I think we all agree here on the fundamentals of Bitcoin. It's not even, I don't even think that the Bitcoin fundamentals is reliant on the Bitcoin. Bitcoin is simply the solution that the market came up with organically because of this problem that we have. So that's the fundamentals. It's the Bitcoin's not the fundamentals. It's the fundamentals for Bitcoin is the what we're in, the system that we're in. Okay. And then the distant third thing is the TA. If you ignore if you manage your equity, number one is, money management, and that's a secret of success. Number two is money management. That's the secret of success. And the third secret is money management.
Money
And
management.
if you don't understand that, there's a fourth secret, and that's money management. Because guys, you don't understand the great world that you live in. There's no reason for you to ever get completely, okay, there's a difference between getting wrecked and getting devastated. In today's markets, my hat off to Arthur Hayes, you can't get completely devastated. You can only get wrecked. You can't lose any more than you put on an exchange. You can't. It's impossible. That was not true 40 years ago. You could lose everything. You can still lose everything if you're trading futures on American regulated exchanges like the Chicago Mercantile Exchange or the Chicago Board of Trade or COMEX. I mean, that's the way it works. They own you.
Yeah.
I think the main thing.
And again, I really need to talk with you, Valtero, because you're on my wavelength, man. Since this conversation with us, what's going on here? Do you understand? Do you understand what I'm saying? What I'm just telling you? It's unbelievable how you can't lose. If you lose everything trading Bitcoin, it's because you really screwed up on your money management. You can't lose it all.
I think it sounds like what you're saying, that the main thing to do is to get your emotions out of it, which is very difficult, because when you look at $1,000 and you think you earned it,
you have to learn to deal with it.
Well, and I think you have to have that system, like you're saying. If you make 10%, it goes into savings. 5%. No system? What about money management? That's a system.
There is no system.
Money management's a system. I don't know what you're talking about, man. It's a system.
The system is there is no system.
It's like proof of keys. You just don't put everything on the exchange. You only play with a portion of your money, and if you get liquidated, you put in less than that.
Sounds like a system. If it's a portion of your money, it sounds like a mathematical system.
Juan Galt just joined us, so let us introduce Juan.
What needs to be done is very simple, but it's very difficult to do.
That's right. We also want to welcome David. He's been with a while. David, do you want to say hello? Say something nice about Bitcoin? Put you on the spot.
No, I'm used to that. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, sounds good. Just say hello, David.
Oh, good, man.
All right.
Happy halving.
Hey.
Happy halving.
Happy halving, guys. Well, trading. Who didn't get wrecked before?
Yeah, I got wrecked. Hey, the thing with trading, I think, is you have to switch your mind from it's going down, it's on sale, and it's going up, it's too expensive. Because if you think it's going up, oh shit, I better jump on, then you're doing it wrong. If you think it's going down, it's on sale, then you're doing it right. And this is so hard for people to experience.
I think there's two philosophies from all the people I talk to. You've got the guys that really focus on volumes and make essentially moves that way, and you got the others that really do pure TA, and I don't think that works. I think the only thing that really works is to watch the volume. But then you have the fundamentals, like ex-Wall Street traders will literally apply what they know, and they're going to be fine anyway. They're going to be fine. The people that have moved to crypto and only do that, they get it. They get that we have many black swan events, manipulation, big whales, as Obi was saying before, still around, and they're managing to manipulate the market the way they want. Unfortunately, this is where we are. We are where we are. It's better than it was, but we're not there yet. But it's better. We have to look at. I mean, most of us have been around for a long time in that space, so we got to say, we got to stay focused on the future and forget about the past, and keep moving forward with this technology and those opportunities to do something different. Yeah. So
that is the trick, to focus on the future and to forget the past.